charity gets under your skin, doesn't it? Absolutely does. I'm Patrick Peal, I'm the Chief Executive. Very proud to be the Chief Executive. As Jerry has alluded to, I got involved in helping to start the charity with the trial in 1996, and then became a trustee. So I've had the great privilege of seeing it from the outside, and an even greater privilege now to see it from the inside. And if I thought it was great being a trustee, I think it is, put all the expletives in that you want, absolutely amazing being on the inside. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what we're planning for the future. We're just trying to be a bit more specific about what we're actually trying to aim to be. And you've heard, a lot of what I'm going to say is really summarising what you've heard from our other speakers this morning. For me, one of the most interesting words on that whole page is measurable. And you've heard Alistair talk about us being able to introduce HEMS base. So now we're starting to track what benefits we're actually producing for patients. So we can actually show what sort of objective improvements we're making in patient outcomes. So measurable improvement in patient outcomes through justifiable services. Can we actually say that they're worthwhile? Can we afford them? Are they the right things that we should be doing as an air ambulance charity? And as you've heard Joanna talking about earlier, we must make sure that we secure that service, that capability, through sustained and ethical fundraising. I want everybody that comes into contact with East Anglian Air Ambulance to be proud of that experience, to be proud of that association, and want to continue that association. I don't want anybody to say, you pressurised me into giving me money. This is a fantastic cause, and if we can just persuade more people to become engaged, I know that they will feel that same enthusiasm and support. And as it says at the bottom there, our goal is to deliver the best outcomes for patients. But as Mark has so clearly shown, it's not just best outcomes for patients, it's best outcomes for their families and their friends as well. And that's something that is very special that we can deliver, that it's very hard for the NHS to do because of the constraints on budgets and timescales and so on. So I'm going to touch on that in a minute. Just a quick summary of some of the things that Alistair's talked about. Closer working with partner organisations. We've come a huge distance in 15 years. I've referred to this organisation over the last year as being a bit of a spotty teenager. We're only 15 years old, and we've been through some huge growing pains, and we've behaved badly on occasions, I'm sure. We've probably trodden on people's toes, I'm sure, but it's all with the very best of intentions. And we're growing up hugely quickly. And as you've heard from my colleagues and our friends, the patients before, we're becoming an organisation we can all be incredibly proud of. And in those relationships with our partner organisations, be it the other air ambulance charities or the ambulance service and so on. There's one piece of news that I can tell you. We've heard from Jerry that we currently do a single long shift in Norwich, and we do 2 shifts in Cambridge. As of the end of April, we're going to introduce an additional road-borne shift with a single CCP, a single critical care paramedic, operating out of Norwich, which is going to fill in some of those hours that we don't currently cover. We don't exactly know what that timescale is going to be, but it's probably going to be midnight to 7 o'clock in the morning, working out of the Norwich base with one of our highly qualified CCPs. So that's another little inching forward to being able to deliver these life-saving services to more people more of the time. You've also heard earlier how important bystander CPR support is. We have already started doing CPR training in schools, particularly in northern Cambridgeshire, and it's something that we feel passionate about. Our paramedics say it's the one piece of first aid that makes a difference. So I won't ask you to put your hands up in the room how many of you can do CPR, but if you can't, please get training because you will make a difference. And if you have done already, thank you very much, please keep doing it. We as a charity believe that CPR training is so important that we've put all our members of staff through CPR training last year. We're just about to start doing the refresher training. And I'm going to ask the trustees later on if they will support making CPR training part of the induction process of all new members of staff. That's our level of commitment to CPR training, to bystander CPR training. And as I've talked about earlier, and as you've heard from Alistair, this whole concept of being evidence-based, data-driven, is something effectively about an organisation that is growing up and is more comfortable with itself. It's not about saying, yippee, let's go night flying because we can do it. It's let's go night flying because it's the right thing to do, and we have the evidence that says it will produce this amount of benefit, and we have the sustainable income that says, and we can afford it, and we can have the reserves to make sure that it's a resilient operation. Next slide, please. I'll actually do this a little bit the other way around. We've talked a little bit about hospital helipads. It's a national problem for all air ambulances, and it's one of the issues that the Association of Air Ambulances that we're a member of campaigns for. We're not waiting for campaigning at national level. We're starting to talk to the chief executives of hospitals. I've got a meeting with the hospitals minister, Ben Gummer, in a few weeks' time to make the case to ask for his support to put more effort into improving the capability of helipads around the region. We are fortunate that we have a number of hospitals with helipads, but not many of those helipads are lit and available 24/7. So all those sorts of improvements we need to be pushing towards. It's not necessarily things that we will do ourselves, but it will be projects where we can be the catalyst and the encourager and the, if you like, the driving force behind it. There's another project that we will be working on over the next few months and years. We have an opportunity by 2019 to look at whether we should relocate or refacilitate the Norwich headquarters. Let me reassure you that when I say relocate, I mean by hundreds of yards or half a mile or so. It's just the opportunity to be able to put in place the best possible facilities for our medical teams and for the admin people and for the fundraisers who work so hard to support the charity. It's all about making sure that we have facilities that are fit for purpose. So it brings together all of the Norfolk staff. It improves the experience for visitors. Critically, we will only do it if we can demonstrate to trustees and to our supporters that it will reduce through-life costs. It will actually reduce the cost of the operation. But it will also demonstrate to Norfolk, which is our heartland, it's where we started, that we have a long-term commitment to the county. And I've already alluded to the drive towards cost down, cost effectiveness. If we can chisel away at what we spend to make sure that we're spending it more effectively, that means that we can put more into the operational side of things, or we can reduce the demands that we put on Jo and her fundraising team. And a lot of this comes out through trying to be smart and coming up with new ways of doing things. So innovation for us is about focusing on time. You've heard how, well, you'd think from everything that you've heard today that the only person in the world we care about is Alistair. It's actually not the case. The person we care about is the patient. We focus on doing what's best for the patient, and Alistair is the patient's champion. And so everything that we should be doing is looking at how we can chisel away at the time it takes us to do things, and to make sure that we make most cost-effective use of the money that we raise and find better ways of raising those funds. So just quickly, a continuous improvement task force to look at everything that we do and find ways of chiseling away at time and money. Alistair's already alluded to the mission video capability, so it helps us to bring to life what actually happens at scene so that we can learn from it and we can tell stories within patient confidentiality and so on. Joanna's talked about the fundraising initiatives. Just in terms of simple things that we can introduce that make this very distributed organisation, bearing in mind we cover 4 counties, we have 7 offices currently. So we have a fundraising office in Peterborough, in Ipswich, in Melbourne, and in Bedford, and of course in Norwich. And we're starting to introduce Skype for Business. It's a fantastic tool. You can talk to each other, you can see what's going on, you can share documents, and you do that without leaving your desk or wherever your laptop is. So Jo can work from home, she can be having a conversation with me, we can share documents. It cuts time, it cuts waste, it cuts mileage, and so on. So there are big improvements that we can make. Just wanted to touch briefly on this concept of not just doing the best for the patient, but also doing the best for the patient's family. We've started, a year or so ago, we introduced a staff team member, patient liaison officer. So we now have somebody who can be a point of contact for people like Tim and for Mark. They can come in, find out more about what actually happened on the day. What actually happened? They don't know. They need to put that right. But also, the patient liaison officer can help to signpost forms of treatment, counselling and so on, but also provides a focal point for the families. And let's not beat about the bush. Some of the families aren't as fortunate as Tim's family. Some have to, we do deal with bereaved families. And so we're putting in place ways of helping them come to terms with the very worst day that could have happened. And these are just some of the pictures of some of the patients that have come back. We've got a remembrance walk in Elvedon with the kind support of Lord Iver, and it just provides a little bit of a focus for people to be able to come to terms with what happened on that fateful day. Next. And really just to summarise, that's what we do as a charity, and with your support, we buy time for patients and for their families. And it's thanks to you and to all our friends across the community, across the wider community, that we do what we do. And if you keep helping us, then we will do more. Thank you very much indeed.